Everyone is creative.
A creative life requires
bravery and action,
honesty and hard work.
We're here to support and celebrate.
And encourage you to make the things that you love.
We believe in the power of community.
We believe in giving a damn.
We believe in face-to-face connections,
in learning from others,
in hugs
and high fives.
We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose,
confident they will inspire one another,
and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world.
Everyone
is welcome.
This month's theme is Crossroads, and this theme is enacted with folks who are presenting all over the global chapters. And it was chosen by our Wrocław chapter in Poland, and it was illustrated by Joanna Niadi and is presented by Adobe, so this beautiful image. And the way that we're thinking about the theme Crossroads is we all reach turning points in life that change the course of our destiny. And should you continue straight or turn left, there's no map that shows where the consequences lead. In folklore and mythology, crossroads represent a gateway between our mortal coil and the supernatural realm, and the in-between place of transition where anything can happen next. How do you decide which way to go? There's no wrong choice, only different journeys to where you're meant to be. So that was written and shared by our chapter in Poland, in Wrocław, Poland. So with that, I'm going to invite our wonderful guests, Mark and Carson, up to the stage, because in doing things differently, we're going to stage a dialogue. And I'll let you decide sort of how we do the chairs, where you'd like to sit. But my invitation to us is to share a moment from our teenage years, which is such a time of crossroads, where we found ourselves, Mark and Carson, and I'll include myself here just by means of handoff. As teenagers, what was a moment that you found yourself in a crossroads? That's me on the far left. That's my very first time I did public speaking. Look how captivating I was. It was the very first time had to have an experience where I had to think about how I would compel people to care about something that they didn't otherwise care about. It was the prairies. It was the early 90s. It was reduce, reuse, and recycle. And I don't think I convinced them. It was a group of grade 7s. But for me, it was a crossroads where it was the first time where I realized that I was shifting into that time in my life as an adult where you sort of had responsibility to bring people around the issues that mattered to you. And so I see that moment to me really represents a shift in my life. So Mark, I would love for you to introduce yourself with Crossroads as a teenager. Over to you.
Thanks, Carrie. A lot of people think they know me. Well, a lot of people know me. But what I mean is, this is interesting. So my introduction to Creative Mornings was 16 years ago. And I actually attended one of the there was only a New York chapter, and then was invited back to be a speaker in an experiment as they considered could they expand Creative Mornings. Which, by the way, note to self, don't speak in New York from Vancouver at 8 in the morning. That is a really early morning. But since then, I've amassed this reputation of being this gregarious, confident, outspoken, clearly extroverted character, right? Hey, you. That's not me. That's actually not who I am. That's the character that I play. And that's me. I was walking to school in 1981, I guess. There it is in my mom's handwriting, with a friend, and 12 years old. And I had quite a quirky, shy, withdrawn, back of the room kind of personality. I was nervous, and I didn't feel confident that I had the right answer, or that I was good looking enough, or popular enough, or smart enough to be amongst all these really cool kids. And I'm walking to school one day with my friend Kyle, who said, are you going to go to Miss Smith's tryouts for the musical? What? No. Why would I do that? Well, because all the cool kids are going to go, and Vanessa's going to be there. Oh, Vanessa's going to be there. Well, I mean, he said, and then later my mother reiterated, what's the worst that could happen? Which is a really interesting way to think about Crossroads. What's the worst that could happen? I could maybe embarrass myself in front of 12 kids in the music portable, and then just become part of the choir and in the chorus, and it's fine. Big deal. Lead fucking character. You're going to be Rock against this 8-inch taller, beautiful 14-year-old, and who's going to play your wife in a musical called Wheels, and sing 4 solos in front of everybody. I still feel sick. Jeez Louise. And it's interesting because when I think a lot about in my work and in my life about agency. The control, the choice, the action I can choose to guide my life. And I went home baffled. Wait, I'm a singer? I can sing? Since when? That's interesting. I didn't know that. These other kids were all like, oh my gosh, Mark, you're perfect for this. This is so great. And I went home and I told my mom, and she was like, well, here we are again. What's the worst that could go wrong? I mean, really, you're gonna learn new songs. You're gonna have it'll be scary. But everyone else will be admiring you for having tried. And that will be something. And you will learn lessons about your own capabilities. You will expand you will grow your own awareness of self just by trying. Just try. So there I am. Rock. My Martha, it's a wheel. It's got to be a wheel. Still these songs are burned in my brain. And that is many, many years ago. So meet 12-year-old Mark, standing at a crossroads, holding a wheel.
Beautiful story. That's mine? Oh, beautiful story. Mine is not as funny as your story. But this is me. I think circa 1990, I'm going to give away my age, 92, I think I was 17 years old. So it's a bit of a context here. When I grew up in Toronto, born and raised in Toronto, I was the only Asian kid in my school. So I got bullied all the time, and I still remember this. I mean, it's not as funny as it used to be, but people used to call me Ting-a-ling-a-ling. I used to hate my last name. I was like, why did I'm stuck with this last name Ting? Everyone would call me Ting-a-ling. It would drive me nuts. So I got bullied a lot. Every photo in my annual yearbook, I'd have a black eye from people, just duking it out with other kids. So here I am, 16, 17 years old here, and been working out, a little confident, and my crossroad was I wanted to be a gangster, an Asian gangster. I thought it was so badass. This photo was taken in Tokyo, my first trip overseas with my mom and dad and brother. My mom took this photo, and I was thinking to myself, man, do I look badass here? So my crossroads, either I was going to be a gangster or I was going to be a cop. Never did I think I was going to be an illustrator, an artist. So that's my crossroad. Very embarrassing, but it is the truth.
You are a little bit.
So we're going to also introduce something that's happening in chapters around Creative Mornings internationally, where this event is part of a series called Thriving Through Change, and we're both looking at Crossroads, but also going to continue the dialogue with the theme of thriving through change as we think about meaningful connections that creative professionals are facing specifically today. So with that, I invite the two of you with this slide in the background just to keep the dialogue going and to ask what are some ways that in your current creative practice you're finding ways to thrive through change and also find yourself at a crossroads? And I know the two of you well enough to know I'm just gonna walk away now. Discuss.
And now she abandons
See where
us.
it goes.
The reason that okay, first of all, a bit of context. There's a rule in the Creative Mornings community, which, as you may know, some of you are new, you might not. There's something like a couple million Creative Mornings community members around the world, and there's 240, 5 cities part of this community, 70 countries, 71 countries. It's big. And so there are rules. Some are written, some are hard, some are unwritten, some are implied. One of the rules that happened many years ago that we've honored here in Vancouver, and I've seen most chapters honor, is once a speaker has presented their story and given their gift, it's one and done. We can keep track. They're alumni. We have supported Carson for the past 11 years, and if you haven't seen Carson Tingling's beautiful talk 11 years ago, he spoke about the sub-theme, or the global theme at the time was rebel. And he may claim to not be a gangster, but he is kind of the gangster of illustrators. And he talked about what rebel meant. And it was an interesting twist on that theme, actually, because in terms of creative process, his approach, he actually spent a lot of time talking about things like mentors and things that were not so directly attached to this normal notion of rebel. It was quite clever. And he did it the entire time with a camera above him looking down as he illustrated in real time the entire talk. It was beautiful. But that makes him disqualified to be a speaker at Creative Mornings again. And I, having already once participated, I had said, as the founder, the guy who brought Creative Mornings here, the guy who leads this team, I'm never going to be a speaker. This is not my role. I don't feel comfortable up here. In fact, I have to tell you that this is incredibly uncomfortable for me. I don't want to be the talent. But I was part of the team that decided to do this Thriving Through Change initiative. I was in a conversation, myself and Marga, we're in a conversation with our friends at RGD, Rebecca and Hillary and the rest, and they were like, we'd love to be your partner, and could you please ask Carson Ting to be our speaker? And so my answer was, well, no. What do you mean? He's already been a speaker. And then I spoke to Carson and said, wait a second, I've noticed New York and some other chapters have done this thing where they invite someone back, a notable speaker back from their community, in a new format. Sergio and I were talking about maybe doing this with him one day, like just a different way of doing it. And I said, Carson, would you come back? And he said, I don't know, I'm going through some change. Some things are changing in my career and my path. Maybe if it was something different. I'm like, well, don't really. What about if we had a conversation about that change and how you're approaching it, and maybe we invite the audience to join us? And that was it. And that is literally all the prep we did for today.
I love it. I love it when it's all ad hoc, raw, and I don't know, we'll just kind of shoot the shit here. Okay, yeah, so I think timing couldn't be better. I'm much more confident that you're here. I rehearse till the cows come home. I rehearse. And meanwhile, here I am. I just landed from Hong Kong on Wednesday at 2 p.m. No prep work. So I'm just going to spill my guts here. And this is the first time I've ever done this. And I'm literally at the crossroads. And to Mark's point, there's a change in my career. I'm here to share all my learnings. And I came back. It's been in my brain for the past few years, but I haven't really set it in motion. So just to give you some context, when I did the Rebel, creative talk, I was still transitioning from art direction to illustration, and my mentor, who's here actually, Alex Beam, it's actually Bame, but I love calling him Beam because Bame sounds like a waning power Bame. He was like, Carson, you gotta quit advertising. You gotta stop freelancing. And I was like, well, I love advertising, but you know, your passion is really in illustration. Anyways, long story short, I made the change, made the transition back in 2016, and left advertising completely. And it was really hard for me to say no when agencies called me to go in to do art direction. And then I was just biting my tongue, telling people that I can't do it anymore. And I'm glad I did. And I'm glad I did. That year, 2017, was a really interesting year because I had stopped freelancing, the sweet money stopped coming in, and I was like facing this dilemma. I was like, I gotta make this work. I gotta make this full-time illustration thing work. You know, I had 2 mortgages, a kid, and now 2 kids, so I had to make it work. But I'm glad I did. I got a studio. I was working from home. It just didn't cut it. And then I got a studio, and things just changed. It made it better. I was fully focused, and projects started rolling in, and I loved every second of it. And now, fast forward from 2016 to now 2025, like 8 years, almost a decade, I'm at another crossroads. I want to move into the fine arts. I was in Hong Kong to do a show for a Complex Con with Alex Bain, and it went really well. I ended up on the news. I was rubbing shoulders with all these like megastars, these global like artists, and I went to, by pure coincidence, I was in Hong Kong in March when all the art events were happening. It was just buzzing with energy, like energy I've never experienced. There was Art Basel, there was Art Central, there was HK Walls. There were like 4 or 5, events that were happening that month that was there. And I remember one night I went to 4 art parties, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I really got to make it to this fine arts stuff. And I'm starting brand new. I mean, when you think it, when I tell my mom or tell my brother, they're like, oh yeah, it's just easy. Just take all your commercial work and turn it into fine arts. I was like, no, that doesn't work that way. I have no body of work for fine arts. I'm starting brand new, and it feels weird because I'm going to turn 50 this year. And I'm thinking, man, I'm starting brand new again. I feel like a complete baby. I know nothing about the fine arts, and I'm just starting everything brand new. I'm still going to continue running my studio and still work on clients that are coming through my studio. But I'm really convinced and with full conviction that this is something I want to do for the rest of my life now.
Were you at my funeral? I can't remember. Did I invite you? I did.
I don't remember. I have a really bad memory.
When I turned 50, a few years ago, having part of course what I do in this phase of my career, the final phase of my career, I spent a lot of time thinking about change in the form and in the value of gathering and how we can shape and design and host and deliver value in how people connect and gather. For my birthday, which I don't do birthdays. My friends, in fact, Jonathan Strebley, who's a big part of this community, was insisting like, dude, it's happening whether you like it or not. So I was like, okay, well then let's eulogize the first 50 years of Mark's life. And I came out in a coffin, a real coffin we got which wigged some people out, I tell you. And people, basically roasted me. And other people said very, very sweet things. I mention it, it's an interesting thing. It's strange how many people do that. But as you think about 50, that is a very interesting moment that this is coinciding with such change in life. You could say goodbye. I think there is value sometimes in closing chapters and saying goodbye and celebrating new beginnings. Something to think about. I have a question. Back then, we didn't know the industry. I mean, I think we both had clues and ideas, but we didn't know that the advertising and traditional graphic, visual communication strategy industry was going to be changing so much. Advertising in particular. So you got out at a very fortuitous time, actually, if you think about what's happening in that. There are other significant changes happening in the creative profession. Not everybody here comes from that world like you and I do. AI being an obvious one. Technology changes, economic changes, business changes, obviously. I'm wondering, as this transition happens for you in real time, how much pull, or rather, how much inertia or magnetism, have you heard of, I think I mentioned to you, the sunk cost fallacy? Does anybody know what the sunk cost fallacy is? In behavioral sciences, it's the idea that we feel so compelled to keep going because we've invested so much in the thing already. It's my identity, all my tools, my training, but what I'm known for, the thing, I'm Chairman Ting, I'm Billion Buns, I can't change. How much of that, talk to us a little bit about how much of that pull are you feeling, have you felt, and how do you deal with it?
Well, I'm a very greedy person, so it's very easy because I just keep all three pots going. And I know it's something's got to give. Something's really got to give. But in my mind, I just got to keep all three things going. And I don't see a reason why I need to give up other things while I pursue another thing. I mean, for practical reasons, I still have to pay my bills, so I have to run the studio. So thankfully, I still have projects coming in, and so I keep that going. Billion Buns is a thing that I'm running on the side, and it doesn't need too much of my energy. It's just something that I'm running and waiting for it to catch fire. But I am actively working on a script, on a pitch that we're doing with a studio for an animated series that we've been working for the 2 years. So working from advertising actually, that trained me. It trained me to work on many things simultaneously. You're never working on just one account. You're working on several different accounts, several different projects, all at the same time. And I think that kind of really helps as a creative person. I mean, we all have ADHD. You can't just be working on one thing. I remember when I got hired to work at Blast Radius, to work on Jordan. I was like, cool, what else am I working on? That's it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I had a hard time just focusing on Jordan. I wanted to work on something else. So I think now that I've got three pots going, I can kind of it's just like a lot of, paint, not that I do a lot of painting, but you can paint on several different things at the same time. So that's kind of how I'm managing it. And to answer your question about, to be forced to pick one thing, I don't think I need to. Just like, back in my first talk about being a rebel, I hate being classified as just one thing. You can do multiple things. As an art director, you can do multiple things. So I think in the very same vein, that's kind of how I'm approaching this. And not that I've already done it. It's still fresh in my head. Like I just came back from Hong Kong, experiencing Art Basel, seeing all the amazing artwork. It's something I want to do. I could fail. I know it may never happen. I could just still be doing commercial illustration for the rest of my life, which I have no problem with. But deep down, I want to find a more authentic voice for myself.
I don't buy it. And I will check in with you later to see how this is going. I say that tongue-in-cheek. What I mean is, I suspect, your talent is extraordinary. Anyone in this room who knows anything about you knows that you have mountains of talent. But where you're headed, I think, will require, and a lot of us, as we think about our career path, understand that focusing on the deep dive sometimes is what's necessary to succeed truly in a space, and other stuff can be a distraction. And I really like this idea, and I'm going to ask some people to maybe think about what it means to them, this idea of letting go to make space for, right? There's a beautiful quote about sometimes we make choices and let go of major parts of our lives to put ourselves in the path of the future. So that's an interesting thing to ponder. The marketplace, the industry, the world has changed. The tools we use has changed. Adobe is our partner today, right? Talk to us a little bit about the tools you're using and how that can be a way that you can use that talent, bring it to life, what it means in terms of creativity, and how you're hoping that this change is going to blossom into something notable and special when we are filled with a very noisy creative world these days.
The tools, yes. Yeah, things have definitely changed big time. Tools have become much more smarter, much more powerful. Even on my phone, I can be processing photos, I can be illustrating on the fly. So it just feels like we have instant power at all times. Very different from, back in the day, like where you're kind of locked down to a LED desktop, and or into a kind of a Wacom or something. But you've got your iPad that I travel with all the time. It could be just consistently just creating work. But one big, we all know, with AI, it's been a very powerful tool. And I haven't really used any of the visual stuff. I've only used ChatGPT to just kind of stir thinking, to really kind of deep dive into conceptualizing, thinking different ways, talking to it, training it. Actually, you're the one who trained me to use ChatGPT. I remember you coming to my studio and you were telling me, ChatGPT, you can train it to think like you. And you were telling me how you fed it, ChatGPT, your resume.
Chris, that's directly from him.
And I was like, wow, you could do that. And this all came about as we were brainstorming for this event. And I couldn't believe it. And I always had the free version of ChatGPT. And you're like, Carson, you gotta get the paid version. So I did exactly what you told me to do. I fed it everything. I fed it all the articles that have been written about me, articles that I've written, my resume. And now it knows me. And even for this event, I'm like, what the hell am I gonna talk about? And that type of thing. It really kind of accelerated, my brain power in regards to just thinking more broad strokes.
How many people are using AI tools at all? Like in any way? How many use them in their creative practice on the regular? How many people are feeling anxiety about your relationship with AI and what it means? It's all the same hands.
Okay, there's the weird thing. When I was in Hong Kong, so OpenAI is banned in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So I felt naked.
But is DeepSeek banned?
Actually, I didn't try DeepSeek, but Gemini wasn't.
What?
So I
that could be just an anti-American thing, right?
maybe.
Interesting.
But I'd use it to write agreements, like legal stuff. So I was
Right.
like, shit. I was like, well, how am I gonna write this legal agreement without ChatGPT?
Right.
But thank God Gemini was there. So.
Don't worry, Mark. I'm reading the room. I know what we're doing here. Okay, so we have a third chair. I'm just going to shift it ever so slightly. Is that okay, Rick? Ever so slightly? Great. We have a third chair here, and the invitation is to enrich the dialogue, move the dialogue in different directions, and we invite members of the audience and the community to come and just join the discussion in the third chair. We all up here, those of us that have mics, have a particular frame of reference, a particular way that we're thinking about this conversation. So I particularly invite folks who might take that in a different direction, represent different ways of thinking, different creative paths, different,
I can imagine there are people in the room right now, and remember the 12-year-old who just did it, because what's the worst that could happen?
Mm-hmm.
Just be the 12-year-old. A comment, maybe a question for one of us. We're not doing a conventional presentation about our work. Maybe you want to ask us that question.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have an idea or a story you want to tell us about how change has affected you, or how you have got yourself unstuck and through a change.
Yep.
So just come in. Obviously, we don't have a ton of time. We're skipping all the rest of the stuff for the rest of the event to carry this through for the next little while. So if you were able to just be brief and join us and drop in and stay with us, and please stay with us in this conversation until someone taps you on the shoulder and wants the chair.
Yeah.
So please just come and just walk on up.
So how this will work, if anybody wants to just join the conversation, and then if you also wanted to join the conversation, you would just come and stand here near me, and then we'll kind of go in and we'll tap someone out. And so if you're up here and you feel a tap,
My
you're just
mentor's
gonna
coming up.
hand over.
Alex
Excellent.
Bame, 2 Creative Mornings alumni. We're breaking all the rules.
It actually feels terrible when you call me mentor. I feel like I'm such an old man.
You are.
You are.
You are.
I don't want to feel it.
Is this the Alex that you were
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to share something that we talked about yesterday, which is it relates to this conversation. And I have been through like Crossroads like multiple times in my life. And the last one, I actually, when I was 36, I went through a Crossroad, like coming out of advertising and going to doing like interactive art installations. And I thought, this is it. I found my thing. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Neither did I know that at 53, I was like, fuck, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And shit, I'm in the same place.
And you definitely, I remember that. You had that sunk cost fallacy that you were fighting. You were wrestling with that.
Yeah.
I can't let go of that. That's my identity. I have a shop. I have staff. I have.
Yeah, so it was like at that moment I was thinking like, okay, should I just, and everything was triggered because of COVID, the lack of work, stuff like that. Should I just shut down, try to sell my company, get a job, or kind of like look at what I've been doing and see if I need to refocus. And it was through conversations, like with you and with other people that actually helped me kind of like align to what I thought I needed to do. But going through the door of like choosing a new path and just leaving what I'd been doing for so long behind was hard. It was kind of like like something was part of me was dying, and I would say this is tangible, which is my studio. This is who I am. What am I gonna do next? But what was really eye-opening that I was sharing with you yesterday is like I committed to investing my time and my focus into one going through like that's a little door. But what I didn't expect is for like once I went through the door, it's like the world opened up again and all these opportunities just happen, and then I'm like a much sharp focus on what I want to do. And what I was doing before was very broad, and I like Carson, I still do that kind of stuff. I'm having closed the studio, but now with this more like sharper focus, I can be seen for someone. What I'm doing is I do this. We do digital graffiti at our studio, just so you guys know. But now people know that's what we do. It's easier to talk about it. And then now we do much larger projects. We also do a lot of community support projects. We work with we've done stuff with the city to kind of like create spaces where graffiti is allowed and people can actually express themselves like that. We support like projects in other countries, and we work with like huge clients. And I just never thought my world would actually open it again until the next Crossroads.
Yeah, I founded and was the managing partner of a brand strategy identity design firm for 20 years. And the moment of stepping away to take leadership roles with other creative firms, I remember that particular night. I remember 3:05 a.m. 3:05 a.m. A full-on panic attack. As I gave myself permission to wrestle with the idea that this part of my life was over and that was not my identity and it needed to be set aside so that I could move forward. And I think what I experienced was a version, psychologically speaking, I think that you can relate, of identity death. And I needed to put that away and move forward. And I think that a lot of us avoid change and avoid leaning into the discomfort of these phases of life because we're afraid of that experience. And if there's one lesson and thing that I would like to share with the audience is I think most of us, almost all of us, would be better for it if we just allow ourselves to go through that process and grieve the loss and embrace the new version of ourselves. Because like I know you're in the process and you've been through the process and I'm in the process. There's more joy and there's more unique fit to who I actually am in the version I let be than trying to cling to what was. Make sense? Oh, you're out. You got the boot. It's working. Hey, Nolan.
Hi, Nolan.
Me, Carson.
Yes, hey, Carson. Hi, I'm Nolan, and I'm very nervous, but I'm excited
It's
to be
okay.
up here. Yeah.
No, nervous is good, man. Nervous is good.
Carson makes me comfortable because I'm his practicum student right now, so I get some experience.
Well, we need some outsiders in this. What is? All right.
Sorry, I can leave. Yeah, I just wanted to come up here because I feel like this title of this talk was very exciting to me. This is my first time here, and I figured out because of Carson, I was excited to see his speech. But Crossroads feels very applicable to where I'm at right now. I'm just about to finish my second post-high school degree at CAP, and that's how I got the practicum position with Carson. But my previous degree was at UBC in Fine Arts, and this degree was in interaction design. And I've always struggled to figure out where to navigate my creativity and what to go into. I kind of have always had that imposter syndrome and feeling of like jack of all trades, master of none. I do music, pottery, fine arts, drawing, a variety of things, and it's hard for me to feel like I can just tackle one thing. I think that's out of a fear of feeling like maybe I won't be good enough at that one thing, so I have to keep that kind of pool of things going. But I also feel like I don't want to stifle my creativity because I love to do all those things too. But I'm just about to be done school, move over town with my girlfriend, won't have a job, won't have school, have to pay rent, and it's scary. But yeah, so I definitely feel like I'm at the biggest crossroads in my life right now.
Professional moment for the two of you.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say? Like not in a perfect. You're not working together right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wrote here, tenacity. Just being tenacious. I think just really kind of believing in what you really want to do. And I mean, my other mentor, Glenn Hunt, celebrity. Glenn Hunt is the guy who wrote I Am Canadian, who's been making the rounds again because of our newfound patriotism. Glenn used to tell me, I mean, he used to tell me, if there's a will, Carson, there's always a way. And he also told me that, being a creative person is a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And that have always been in the back of my head. And then working at Rethink, the guys always told me, the mantra has always been keep going, KG. And that's always been the back of my head, just keep going. And yeah, like I said, like if there is a will, there's always a way. And seeing your talent, there's no doubt that I know that you're gonna make it. And then also just kind of seeing what's happening out in Asia, in the fine arts world, because I know you're also a painter. I think it's a really big world out there, and I think there's so many opportunities. And I think a lot of us tend to just really think more of a closed mind, where it's just always in Vancouver, always Toronto, always Canada. The world's a much bigger place. And now, with the World Wide Web, you can work anywhere, remotely from anywhere. So I think it's a really exciting time to be a creative person right now. All these powerful tools at our disposal, and with our access to all the global markets. I'm very excited.
I will, just before you leave, Nolan, I wrote myself notes yesterday and the day before that might come up, and this one seems apropos for you, and it relates to what's going on with Carson, which makes your current situation a good one, aligned. I wrote to myself, don't choose, combine. We don't have to choose one identity or one path. Creativity can hold contradictions, which reminded me of Walt Whitman, the writer. He wrote, do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes.
Wow, thank you. That's beautiful, I appreciate that. Thanks,
Uh-oh.
Now we've got Zane, and we have
Zane
a lovely
McGee.
long lineup here. So we're
All right,
gonna
let's
keep
hammer
it-
through some.
and
Let's
we've
go.
And we've got only about 10 minutes, so we're going to get through a lot of people.
15.
All right, so I love that what you just said to, was it Nolan? To Nolan. And so a quote that I was thinking as I was standing there was Oprah once said, "You can do anything, but you can't do everything all at once." And as I think about your story, so yesterday I auditioned to be the king in Frozen at the Arts Club. And it was my first musical theater audition in 24 years. And I took 3 vocal lessons. So Ashley Corcoran, if you're seeing this, give me the role. But I was like, what am I doing? And then even with ChatGPT, I have long conversations with ChatGPT. One of my former coworkers at Daily Hive was like, ChatGPT is your best friend. And I'm like, yeah, because it thinks quickly and doesn't talk back. But when it talks about what we can do, like since my brother spoke at Creative Mornings, so he can't do this again, but it was right before the pandemic, and it was about my dad passing. It was the last one before the world shut down.
The last person we had before we had lockdown.
Yeah, and then during the pandemic, my mother passed away. I lost my job at Daily Hive. I have a cool job now. I do creative strategy for the YouTube channels and movie studios. I've dabbled in stand-up comedy. I've dabbled in drag. My drag name is Janet Jacksoff. I don't think she'd appreciate of that. Every time I met her, she thinks I'm a nut. But I'm like, when we combine stuff, for me, it's the capacity. First of all, my brother asked me the other day, can we teach people creativity? And I'm like, can I teach people creativity? I don't know, because I want to get into speaking, but it's like, there's so much when you're a multi-hyphen and you can do so many things, and you can only do so many things at once. And even if you combine, if you take every color on a paint palette, it just turns into a black mess. So how do we divide the things and do this stuff and in what order so we have the capacity so it makes sense to somebody else, makes sense to us, and we don't burn ourselves out? What do you guys think about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think if you love what you do, I mean, it's you're more durable. You're more durable, and you are willing to take in the pain. You know, it doesn't. It's
that sounds horrible.
It sounds horrible. On paper.
Are you in pain right now?
I'm not. But what I'm saying is, if you love it, I mean, it really is not painful. It's something that you enjoy, and I think which is why I'm at Crossroads to do fine arts, because it feels like a much more. It's like an evolution. It's a more authentic kind of expression of my craft, and I no longer have to work with clients.
How do you know when it's the time to drop the thing? When you're like, it was good for me, it was lucrative, it served a purpose, and you're kind of afraid to be like, oh, I gotta move on from that.
I mean, it's been a slow process. It's like peeling back the different layers. You know, like from advertising, making the logo bigger, moving away from that illustration. You're known for a style, so you're doing what you love. And now, like, you know, when clients are asking, oh, you want to add this and add that, and you do it with a smile. But now, you know, when you get to a certain point, it's like, I just want to do whatever I want to do. And that's kind of where I'm moving towards to, and that's my crossroads.
I'm going to give you
a card for me, White Oprah.
You can read
what
it
is
later,
it?
but this conversation reminds me of a beautiful way that I like to think about creativity, and I did not used to think of it this way. Creativity for me was a process or a practice to achieve the thing that I was making, and that was a reflection of who I am. Now I view creativity as a mirror that reflects the potential that I am becoming. And so by trying all the things, by doing all the things, by giving yourself a chance to fail, by thinking about the idea, is creativity teachable, learnable? It's all just a process of revealing who you actually truly are anyway. Every one of those moments is an opportunity to try or to evolve into the better version of Zane. Get off my stage.
Cue Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror.
Yeah.
Building on the theme of mirrors, we have Mirror Marion over.
Hi, Marion.
Hi. You said mirror, so then I was like, well, I have a sticker with myself on it that says Mirrored Miracles.
Whoa. Look at those boots.
We're flu-vogging.
Flu-vogging.
Yeah. Shout out John Fluvog. Okay. So I believe we're all mirrored miracles. I will do this briefly. 2018, I'm an IATSE member still. I had to leave working on the floor because I had a brain tumor show up in my head. So brain surgery, stroke, paralyzed, GF strong for a couple of months. This is not usually how I present myself, just so you know, but it's important because of identity, change, all of this stuff, embrace these things. So I'm a little nervous because if I perform, it's fine because I'm performing, not doing myself. So, told I would die really quickly, never walk again. Fast forward, I'm living with grade 3, stage 3 brain cancer, and just have had to pivot. So big pivots. And since then, I'm still a member of IATSE. However, I cannot work on the floor. So I've done lots of change. I put a show on at the Fringe in 2023. Gabor Mate came because I asked him, and that was very cool. And now I do improv at Tightrope in their conservatory program, which is actually overwhelming because I have horrible seizures. But I just surrender and allow whatever it is. Also will be 50 this year. So what I'm doing for my 50th, hint, and you already said you came out in a coffin, I want to make our living, like living is our celebration. And dying, we all do it. So can we celebrate dying? And I think that's what we really are doing all the time. We are dying to our old selves. And so just be in your own skin every day. It's a blinking gift we wake up. It's properly, just incredible that we are here, breathing and living. And that's what I really wanted to contribute.
Amazing. Thanks, Marion.
That's beautiful.
Marion. Now we've got Angel. I just confirmed Angel is not turning 50 anytime soon. So when we're saying with different perspectives, take it in different, nice.
Thank you.
And we all want to be invited to the party, Marion and Carson.
Hi, good morning. Hi.
Hi, morning.
Hi. So I resonate with your story quite a bit. I worked in the tech industry for like 10 years, the branding, logo, swag, and...
I'm so sorry.
I really enjoyed it.
So did I.
And I got laid off, and then I was like, okay, well, it's a blessing in disguise because I actually want to get into art. Well, I've always been in art, and I've always been fascinated in it. But I was like, okay, I'll take the leap and go into art full time. So last year was my first year doing art full time. This is going my second year. And last year I had a really hard time trying to figure what direction to go to. Because as an artist with like shiny object syndrome, I want to do everything. But this year I realized I want to do murals and illustrations. And I think I would like to ask, like, how do you go about pricing?
The dark art of pricing. I actually teach at Capilano University, mural illustration, and I actually offer teaching pricing as well because none of the students know how to. I mean, not that I would expect them to know pricing. It's a true dark art, and there's a lot of variables. The way that I price it is on. First, you got to charge an admin fee, which covers your insurance. It covers all your administrative stuff, file management, legal stuff, and then you've got your ideation. So I would approximate the ideation, like time to come up with the concept, back and forth with the client, and then there's the actual illustration, because you have to do it in high fidelity before you transfer to a wall, and then there's the actual mural illustration. A painting, and then there's supplies, and then usage. So those are the 5 pillars, and I keep them, like itemized as much as possible. But then I never reveal the units because they'd be like, "Oh, you don't need 35 hours to, concept this thing." They'd slash it down. So I would just give it a lump sum once I figure it out in my head. So yeah, the 5 pillars.
I want to jump in here quickly, and then we can move on. But I was on the board of the Vancouver Mural Festival.
Of course.
You were one of our celebrated artists. Thank you for everything you've contributed by murals and art to our public realm. And I can say that we do need creativity as muralists and those who want to produce murals and public art, because pricing and the value of that is currently in jeopardy or in flux or it's in a troubled space. And I think that one thing that we can do as a community is stomp our feet and demand that artists are paid well for that work and that we want that frickin' work. So let us help you also. I think that there is something we can do collectively around pricing to make sure that the politicians know. If we don't make noise, they're just looking at the cost of infrastructure going, oh, well, no work, no money left for, art, because we're making streets, and streets are important. Toilets should flush. We want lights to work. I get it. but I think that this is, and if anybody else has any ideas around this idea, in terms of thriving through change as art, and also like artists are coming out of the woodwork using AI to produce murals. Like, I mean, come on. So, something to think about. No, not an answer. Something to think about. Oh, you're getting the tap.
Thank you so much.
Look at how Kari's doing the tapping for people. She's just like, get.
Yeah, I keep it moving. We got Josh, also
Hey,
not
Josh.
turning 50 anytime soon. Keep it
Don't pick on us 50-year-olds. Come on.
Hi guys, so I'm Joshua. I'm an
Welcome
event
to the
manager who just moved here from Dubai.
Welcome.
And thank you. I do have stage
You're the only guy
fright.
in the room that actually probably thinks Vancouver's affordable.
But I've heard a lot more about Vancouver, but a lot of them have been debunked, so I do like the space.
Oh, good.
I do have stage fright and I do have scattered thoughts, so I'm going to do a massive effort in framing it properly, and I hope it comes across.
We got you.
So as an event manager, one of the things that I do struggle with are the hours that go into the work. Now, given my background and what I deal with, I really value my family a lot, and I've still not found the balance of how do I take on all this work and all these hours of work and still balance it out with my family time. And that actually factors into a lot of some of the decisions that I make, because I still love events management and I know the work that goes into producing something or managing an event especially. So is there something that you guys factor in when it comes to family and your career?
I'm going to jump in here. A huge family man. I set my phone. I have two phones. I have a company phone. I set it to 9 to 5, and it turns off. It goes into silent mode or do not disturb mode. I don't look at anything afterwards. And that's how I stay focused, because I need to be present for my kids, 5 and 10. I love my family, very, very much, and I always carve out the time for my family, where I do a hard stop at 5, and I'm done. And things will always happen. Like, no matter how critical things might come to be, it always figures itself out. And when you're in the moment with their family, everything else should be secondary.
Right. The reason for this question is because when it comes to a place like Dubai, it's a very events-rich country. And they also run with the mentality of if you snooze, you lose. So essentially, all it takes for you is to switch off for family, for somebody else to take that spot. So it's a rat race. It's very competitive.
I don't feel like we have, as you can imagine, I could go for 3 hours on this question. But I'll just share this. Making sure you put yourself in the middle of a team that's well constructed with clarity, that has accountability, and have generosity, love, and the actual purpose and meaning of the events at the core of what they do is a huge advantage right off the bat. The other thing I'll leave you with this is things didn't go perfectly today. Kari and I were joking about why is it that slides, the most fundamental basic thing in any thing, is always the thing that seems to get buggered. I mean, Chris and I, he does amazing events. We laugh afterwards, like, how did that go wrong? Like, whatever. And what we do, and we've coached each other to do over the years, and Kari and I do here, we embrace this word flossom. It's fine. Just don't try to be perfect. And if things don't go entirely perfect with, how much time it takes to get something done, do what you can, delegate the rest, and then cut yourself some slack.
Also, one last thing. I have a message for Nolan. Because I've been there being multivariant. And the thing is, inspiration comes from everywhere. So whatever it is you want to do, you're going to get some idea or angle from something else that you do that you can implement. So you're fine, man.
Cool. Thank you, Josh.
So I've got the sad news that we've run out of time. However, Raph and Billy each have prepped the last word, the last two. So come on up, Raph and Billy. Raph's gonna, because we don't have time for the full dialogue, because we can head into the closing. But what would you like to share with the group as a final gift about thriving through change? Over to you.
I don't know if this is like the best closing remark, but my question was going to be dealing with like failure and how it kind of forces you to change. So I was just going to ask, like, when you are faced with the failure, like you're entering a new phase in your life, how does knowing that you could fail at something, like, how do you cope or deal with something like that? So I don't know if it's the best closing remark.
Everyone's going to talk to you about that as you head out. If you have any answer or wisdom.
I'm going to make a quick comment.
Okay. Yep.
I have strong feelings about failure, and they have changed in my life. I think that the trend, the meme, the ideas around fail forward, fail fast, fail frequently, fail, learn, blah, 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 celebrate failure, I even hosted a failure dinner once where people give fail talks. I kind of wish I could take it all back maybe and rethink it, because failing's a bad idea. I'm not big on failing. I think that we as parents and society, maybe did a disservice to a lot of young people in the last couple generations by telling them that it's okay, try anything, it's fine. And as much as I was saying that like it's okay, lean into it, what's the worst that could happen, I think that there's some real merit in understanding why you're doing something, in the context in which it's happening, and that you've put in real diligence and rigor to make sure that you show up prepared is really actually the best advice. And if it does fail, and if you have to let go of something, just remember that in of itself is a lesson, and you can bring value from that and roll that into the future you. So this failure is always going to have advantages, but I think we should stop celebrating failure. Yay, I failed. Why is that a good thing?
I also want to add one last thing too. I got invited to speak at an event called Fuck Up. So, yeah. So and I think
I could speak for hours at Fuck Up.
My thing is, I think everyone's got really short memories, and I think it's fine because we'll pass and we'll move on to new things. So that's kind of my take.
What's the worst that could happen?
Okay. So for this, it really is the last word of Billy, and then me, and then we'll bring it back to the two of you. So over to you, just knowing people have places to go and people to see. But, you take the time.
Okay, right. So first of all, right, somebody once told me, I interviewed a load of people, Busse was one of them, right? One of my mavericks told me, failure hurts like a fucking kick in the ghoulies.
Did I say that?
No, you did not. Another one said that. A British guy said that. So all I wanted to say was when you had your sign up about thriving through change, okay? A couple of things came through my head. Number one, passport. 20 years old, right? I picked up my passport and I walked out. I've never said this out loud, okay? But you guys needed to hear it, so I'm a bit like Busse. You need to know when you need to know. I picked up my passport, I left my whole family, my culture, my whole family disowned me, and I went and lived a different life. And last week, I was sitting there, looking out at the ocean, watching the otters swimming outside the house and the eagles coming down, and I was talking to a friend who was about to take a step in his life. There's other C's that come with change. One is curious. Be curious what's on the other side of that fucking horizon, because you've got no idea. And the other thing is courage. Just grow a fucking pair and go on the other side of the horizon, okay? Because that's where the good shit is, okay? I had this friend who was like, he was talking to me, maybe I should split up with my partner, we've not been happy for a while. I said, look, if I didn't pick up my passport that day, I would not have this, okay? I would not have wonderful friends. I would not know, Busse, that I could turn around and say to everybody in the queue, I want to be last. I have to go last, right? So go and fucking thrive in that change.
Oh, Billy.
There we go. It's so funny because Jenna, who our wonderful musician, are you still here, Jenna? Jenna had asked, is it okay if in one of my songs I swear? And I was like, I think we're a swearing family, and it's just been the theme.
We are also on TELUS's streaming platform, which means the editors.
It's gonna be
sorry, guys.
It's gonna be. We have to close. Thank you to everyone in the room. Thank you to our supporting partners, to all of the Creative Mornings chapters, and I am gonna hand it to Carson with just the last word. If there's three words in your mind right now that you're leaving the venue with. What are 3 things that come to mind? Think about those 3 things while Mark announces who our speaker is next month, because Mark will be hosting.
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
who
gosh.
is our May speaker, Mark?
One
Over
of the
to you.
advantages, truly, of being partners with the art gallery. Isn't this a great space? Isn't this a nice space? Is that their curatorial team is constantly meeting new artists and interesting people, and they suggested a person that I got in contact with who's sitting right over there. Yaimel Lopez Zaldivar.
Stand up.
Stand up. That is Yaimel.
Yay! Hello.
Yaimel is a Cuban-Canadian multimedia artist and an educator with a lot to say and beautiful, beautiful talents to share. And he will be giving a gift by sharing his creativity story through the lens of the global theme revival, which Cubanos, know something about. And they need a revival right now, badly. Cuba's not in great shape. So, welcome next month. Yeah, Emma.
Woohoo! Thank you. And 3 words, and then we wrap.
Okay, tenacious, passion, and I don't even know if this is a word, open-mindedness. So.
Everyone, we'll see you next month.